It was a chilly January morning in New York City. The streets were buzzing with yellow cabs, honking horns, and the scent of roasted chestnuts from the street vendors on Fifth Avenue. Towering above all this chaos was the Harbour Financial Tower, a sleek glass building that gleamed like a beacon of ambition and wealth. Inside, everything was fast-paced. Employees moved like clockwork, carrying laptops, phones, and coffee cups. Meetings started on the dot. Deals were made. Promotions were won. And yet, there was one person who quietly existed in the background of this bustling machine. His name was Henry Caldwell, and to the world, he was just the janitor. Every morning, exactly at 6:45 a.m., Henry pushed open the heavy glass doors of Harbour Financial Tower. Clad in his gray shirt and dark blue trousers, a mop leaned casually against his shoulder, and his eyes scanned the lobby, taking in the polished marble floors, the sleek elevators, and the faces of people who rarely even glanced at him. Most ignored him. Some, impatient to get to their corner offices, stepped around him as if he were part of the furniture. But Henry didn't mind. He had a rhythm, a routine, a quiet purpose, except for one person. Her name was Madeline Harper. Madeline was 32, ambitious, and fiercely intelligent. By most standards, she had already made it. She was one of the youngest senior executives in the company, known for her razor-sharp mind, relentless drive, and an uncanny ability to close deals that even seasoned professionals struggled with. She lived in a luxury apartment in Manhattan, dined at the trendiest restaurants, and attended charity galas where billionaires casually dropped tens of thousands of dollars on art and champagne. To her, life was a ladder, and everyone was either climbing or stepping aside. And in her world, Henry Caldwell was invisible. Every morning, Henry greeted her politely. "Good morning, ma'am." Every morning, she ignored him. Sometimes she walked past while absorbed in a phone call. Sometimes she didn't even acknowledge him with a glance. Her colleagues noticed. A few whispered about it. Some teased her, but Madeline brushed it off. To her, acknowledging a janitor was irrelevant. "It's literally his job," she would say. "Cleaning, greeting, nothing more." Yet Henry never faltered. Every morning the smile was the same. Calm, patient, almost knowing. Madeline's life wasn't all glitz and glamour. There was a pressure, a weight she carried that few could understand. Every deal she closed, every board meeting she dominated, every compliment she earned, she had to earn it again the next day. Failure was not an option. Mistakes were fatal. At home, she often sat alone in her sleek apartment overlooking the Hudson River, sipping green tea, scrolling through emails, and wondering why she sometimes felt empty. She had money, influence, and recognition, but never peace. And this is where Henry's presence, though unseen, played a subtle role. Every day, without fail, he reminded her of something she refused to see. Not everyone around her was a stepping stone or a competitor. Some people were quietly observing, patiently waiting, and silently shaping the world in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Harbour Financial Tower was more than a workplace. It was a world in microcosm. There was David, her colleague and one of the few people in the office with a sense of humor. He often tried to poke fun at Madeline's sharp edges. "Madeline," he once said over lunch, "that janitor greets you every day. Don't you think you should say good morning?" Madeline laughed, dismissive. "Why, that's literally his job. Cleaning and greeting. End of story." David shook his head, half amused, half exasperated. He couldn't understand how someone so successful could be so blind to the humanity in front of them. Then there were others. The gossipers, the backstabbers, the overachievers, all playing their parts in a corporate game of chess. Promotions, awards, and recognition were battles fought not only with skill but with cunning. Henry, he watched, silently, always watching, not with malice, not with envy, but with understanding. Henry's routine was precise. 6:45 a.m., enter lobby, mop in hand, smile ready. 6:50 a.m., sweep floors, wipe surfaces, check elevators. 7:15 a.m., open doors for early arrivals. 7:30 a.m. Empty trash bins in tidy common areas. 8 a.m. Patrol floors quietly, ensure everything is in order. Through it all, he maintained a presence that was barely noticed, yet somehow essential. Madeline passed him every morning. She never acknowledged him. 5 years of this. 5 years of silence. 5 years of unseen respect that she refused to give him. Over those years, small things happened that hinted at Henry's true nature. He always remembered small details about employees' birthdays, project deadlines, even personal milestones. He never once complained, even when faced with impossible demands or disrespect. Occasionally, he helped someone in need quietly, leaving no recognition behind. And sometimes, people noticed him in subtle ways: a lingering glance, a quiet nod of gratitude, a mysterious solution to a problem no one expected. Madeline, of course, never noticed. But one morning, everything changed. The lobby was buzzing in a way it never had before. Security guards lined the entrances. Whispers filled the air. A black luxury car pulled up outside, and walking in was Henry Caldwell. But he wasn't the janitor anymore. The story was about to take a turn that Madeline and everyone in Harbour Financial Tower would never forget. The glass doors of Harbour Financial Tower slid open, and for a moment, the entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Employees who had been whispering moments earlier suddenly went silent. Henry Caldwell stepped inside, but he wasn't the janitor they knew. Gone were the gray work shirt and dark blue trousers they had seen every day. Instead, Henry walked in wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, a crisp white shirt, and polished black shoes that echoed softly against the marble floor. In his hand was a sleek black leather suitcase. Behind him walked two security guards, alert and professional. Beside him, an assistant hurried slightly, holding a tablet and a stack of documents. The lobby, that once ignored Henry, was now staring at him. Shock spread across faces like wildfire. A woman near the reception desk whispered, "Wait, isn't that?" Another employee leaned closer. "That's the janitor." "No, that can't be him." Across the room, Madeline froze. She had just stepped out of the elevator when she saw him. Her coffee cup slowly lowered from her lips. Her mind struggled to process what her eyes were seeing. Henry walked straight through the lobby, calm, composed, majestic, the same man who used to quietly mop the floors at 6:50 every morning was now walking like he owned the entire building. Because he did. Behind the reception desk, the head of security straightened immediately. "Mr. Caldwell, welcome." The words echoed through the marble lobby like a thunderclap. Employees gasped. Some dropped their phones. Others turned fully to watch. Madeline's heart began to pound. "Mr. Caldwell." Her eyes widened. That name was the one David had mentioned earlier. The mysterious billionaire who had bought controlling shares of Harbour Financial Tower. Her stomach dropped. Henry walked past her. For a brief moment, his eyes met hers. There was no anger, no pride, just quiet understanding. The same calm look he had always had while sweeping the floors. But now the truth had finally arrived, and the entire building was about to realize something that would change everything. The janitor they ignored was the owner of the company, and the story of Harbour Financial Tower was about to take a turn Madeline, David, and everyone in that building would never forget. The lobby was frozen in silence. Every whisper, every footstep, every heartbeat seemed to pause as Henry Caldwell walked past. Employees who had once ignored him walked around him like he didn't exist, or sneered at his humble uniform, now couldn't look away. Madeline, usually composed and confident, felt her world shift. She had worked alongside him for years. She had seen him clean the floors, empty trash bins, and polish the tables while everyone else walked by without a second glance. And yet, here he was, commanding the room with nothing but his presence. Henry reached the center of the lobby, placed his sleek suitcase on a marble table, and finally spoke. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm, steady, and unshakably confident. I believe it's time we all had a little perspective. Gasps rippled through the room. Some employees whispered to each other. Others held their hands over their mouths. Alicia Tor, one of the overachievers who had always belittled him, stood frozen. Her smirk vanished. For the first time, she felt small. Henry continued, "For years I've watched this company grow. I've seen dedication and talent, and I've seen arrogance, entitlement, and neglect. Today, things change." He opened the suitcase. Inside were documents, blueprints, and ownership certificates. He was no longer just the janitor. He was the owner. Employees exchanged stunned looks. Phones started recording. Some began murmuring about how the janitor had quietly become a billionaire, a man who had bought controlling shares without anyone knowing. Madeline stepped forward, her hands trembling. "Henry, I never imagined." He looked at her gently, a small, knowing smile touching his lips. "You didn't need to imagine. You just needed to notice," he said. Tears welled in her eyes. Regret, respect, awe, all at once. She remembered every moment she had dismissed him, every glance he had ignored. And now, all of that had come back to her in this one breathtaking revelation. Henry turned to the room, his presence now larger than life. "This company will be different from today. Respect, collaboration, and integrity will guide every decision. No one will be overlooked. Not employees, not janitors, not the silent ones working behind the scenes. Because every role matters." The room erupted in emotion. Some employees cheered, others cried quietly, and Madeline felt a fire inside her, a mix of humility, admiration, and determination. Henry walked toward the elevator, suitcase in hand. The security guards flanked him. The assistant followed. Every step he took echoed authority, yet carried humility. He stopped briefly at the elevator doors and looked back at Madeline. "Remember this," he said softly. "Life has a way of giving power to those who quietly build it. Never underestimate anyone." The doors closed, and in that moment, the lobby of Harbour Financial Tower was forever changed. Employees who had once dismissed Henry now shared respect, awe, and a new understanding of humility and success. Madeline stood in silence, staring at the doors. A tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered to herself, "I will never forget this. Not him, not today." Henry's story became a legend in the company, a tale of humility, perseverance, and ultimate triumph. The janitor who was overlooked, underestimated, and underestimated again, had quietly built an empire, and Harbour Financial Tower would never be the same.